Please be seated. The court is now in session. For today's proceedings, the Chamber will continue to hear the testimony of the witness, Ms. Sokha, and we then continue to hear the testimony of a civil party through CCP 296. The greffier, Ms. Sakalwati, could you report the attendance of the parties and individuals to today's proceedings? Sakalwati. Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present, except the accused Nojir is at the holding cell downstairs, as he waives his rights to be directly present in the main courtroom, and the letter has been submitted to the greffier. And the witness, Ms. Sokha, and civil party to CCP 296 are ready to be called by the Chamber. Thank you. President, thank you. The Chamber has received a health medical report by the doctor on duty for the accused at the ECCC, who has examined the accused. In general, the health is good. For Nunchir, he has a backache for prolonged sitting and business, and he is recommended to follow the proceedings in the holding cell downstairs. At the same time, the Chamber also received a waiver from the accused Nunchir due to his health condition, that is a headache, backache, that he cannot sit for long in the main courtroom. And for today's proceedings, he waives his right to be present in person in this main courtroom. And he expressly states that he understands the right and he's a waiver. And he understands that the waiver does not lead him to be prejudicial in the trial against him. And also with the medical report from the doctor, as well as the waiver from the accused, Nunchir, the Chamber agrees and allows Nunchir to follow the proceedings from a holding cell downstairs through a remote means. As I just stated, he expressly waives his right to be present in the main courtroom. The AV unit started to link the proceedings to the holding cells downstairs for today's proceeding so that he can follow it. The Chamber has been informed by the Nunchir's defense to make a 5-minute statement in regard to today's proceeding, and I would like to give the floor to you now to do so.
Thank you, Mr. President, Your Honours, Council. Maybe Mr. President, it's a 10-minute submissions that we have to make. And it is all regarding the witness that testified yesterday and earlier this month. It is our position that this witness, Mr. Sokka, is lying. That he has been lying about the crimes he claims to have witnessed at Krang Tachan.
President Councillor Coupe, please wait. The International Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
I'm sorry to get into my feet so quickly, but we must object to this procedure. If there's a motion to be made, first of all, it should have been described in the email that was circulated to this court so that we had notice. This is not the time to get on your feet and make arguments about credibility of witnesses. I could not possibly disagree more with the first words that came out. This is not the time for the defense and the prosecution to argue the credibility of witnesses. If he has a motion to be made about procedure, that's one thing, but this is certainly improper and not the time for the defense to be getting up and challenging the credibility of a witness.
President, thank you. And the National Lead Co-Lawyer for Civil Parties, you have the floor. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, and everyone in and around the courtroom. This morning, when I checked my email, I was rather surprised. It is my view that in the previous practice, the President advised the parties not to make any conclusion or assumption on the credibility of witnesses. And we have Internal Rule 92 to support that, and that parties can make so at the final submission or a submission on the credibility of the witnesses. Thank you, Mr. President. President, thank you. And Councillor Coupe, do you have any response to be made to the opposition made by the International Co-Prosecutor and National Lead Co-Lawyer for Civil Parties?
Yes, Mr. President. We have a request to be able to cross-examine this witness for 3 more hours. Why we need this time, we would like to briefly argue. We're not making any submissions on the probative value of this witness because this is not the time and place to do so. However, we would like to explain the Chamber why it is that we need this extra time. It is a 5 to 10 minute submissions. It is the proper place to do because it relates directly to this witness. When would you want me to do it otherwise?
President Judge Fent, please proceed.
I have just a question to Council. These arguments you want to present to the Chamber, are those the result of yesterday, or have they been known for a longer period of time?
No, because of yesterday. Thank you, Mr. President. I will continue. We are convinced that Mr. Sokka never witnessed a torture incident of a fat cyclo driver suffocated by a plastic bag. We are convinced he made up his story. His inability to
President, Council, you are not allowed to make a conclusion that a witness is lying during the testimony. This will threaten the accused or make him lose confidence for his testimony. and in order to make sure the testimony has a probative value or it is credible, it is at the entire discretion of the bench. You may continue to question the witness in relation to the facts related to the witness. And of course, we understand your tactics or your method when you question the witness yesterday, but it has to be within the limit of questioning the witness and the types of questions that are applicable within the domestic system as well as within the ECCC.
Just an additional question to Council before we make a decision. Will your only final request be to extend the time allocated to you to 3 hours? Or will it also go to questions of relevance, etc.? Meaning, do you suspect the Chamber that some of the questions you will ask will be considered irrelevant if you don't tell us for 10 minutes now why they are relevant?
Well, it was my intention, before I got cut off unnecessarily, to explain that the only way to show this court that this is an unreliable witness is asking him about details. Details as to the events that he claims to have witnessed. If he is not able to properly describe the events, if he's not able to give details of what happened, we think he's unreliable. This is our only way to show to you that he is in fact an unreliable witness. What else do you want us to do?
So you have basically answered the second question I would have asked. You intend to stick with this incident for 3 hours?
No. I was almost finished with this incident. My questions were related to what he claims to have witnessed in respect to the torture. Now, the next line of questions will be me asking him questions about details of children that he saw beaten against trees, mass executions on this small that's what my intention was.
President, the National Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no objection to the defense having equal time to us. By my calculation, that would be that they would get an additional hour to an hour and a quarter total, not 3 hours. Frankly, counsel can choose how to use his time as he wishes. My view, the hour he spent yesterday was unnecessary. Questioning about the details of one day from a prisoner who was here for 2 years. We could have done this. He could have accomplished his objective in 5 minutes. No one should be surprised that a person 30 years later remembers that someone was suffocated, remembers that people were killed, but may not remember anymore less significant details of that day. How much the prisoner weighed, what color his hair was, what socks he was wearing. I don't think it is any way productive to grant 3 hours in this case, but I am certainly not opposed to them having another hour and a quarter, which would give them the same time as us.
President, and what about Kyusumpon's counsel? Can you give us an estimation of time that you need to question this particular witness?
Yes, Mr. President. We have had a discussion with Mr. Samon, and both of us, unless all the issues have been covered by Mr. Kope, will need about a couple of hours. Sorry, we'll need 1 hour. Beg your pardon.
Thank you. And the International Lead Co-Lawyers for Civil Parties, you may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also do not have any objections with regard to the manner in which the defense would like to use their time and the kinds of questions they would like to put to the witness. I nevertheless have objections regarding granting them additional time, and I would like to remind the parties, and particularly the public, that we have an investigation that went on for several years, during which the defense could also have asked such questions. So I am concerned today about this. If each of the defense teams need additional time to challenge the credibility of the witness, when they didn't do so during the investigation, this trial will never be able to end in time. So I would like you to take that into account when you take your decision.
President, the chamber does not allow the co-prosecutor to be on his feet again. Whatever you wish to make, you should make it at one go. The chamber decides that the time for the two defense teams is from now until the lunch break at 12 o'clock at noon. Court officer, could you please usher the witness in? President. Good morning, Mr. Misoka. Today we will continue to hear the remaining of your testimony. And before I hand the floor to the Defense Counsel to put the questions to you, the Chamber would like to remind you that you should listen to the questions carefully and make a direct response to the said question, and please avoid to overstate your response to the question. And secondly, if you are unsure of any question put to you, you can ask the person to rephrase it or to repeat that question. This is in order to save time and to put value on the clarity of your testimony. And I hope you understand my instruction to you. The Chamber would like now to give the floor again to Nuon Chia's defense.
Good morning, Mr. Witness. I have 2 or 3 more questions relating to the events that you described yesterday. The events that you saw a cyclo driver being suffocated with a plastic bag. You said you were standing close to the kitchen. Do you remember if your mother was present when you watched this event?
I was there, but my mother wasn't. And she was not there. The kitchen area was for guards only, not the kitchen for prisoners.
Where were your other brothers and sisters at that moment in time?
My younger siblings were not there because younger children were allowed to play at the north side near the fence.
Mr. Witness, would you be able to tell whether the distance that you were standing from the events was about the same distance as the prison buildings? In other words, would you be able to tell whether the prisoners were able to hear the same things that you heard?
No, they could not, because during the interrogation they would play music or songs or national anthem over loudspeakers.
So is it now your testimony that during the interrogation of the cyclo driver they were playing music?
Answer. During interrogation, music were always played.
Final question, Mr. Witness. Would you be able to explain how it was possible that you were able to hear the questioning of the interrogators and the answers of the cyclo driver when the music was playing?
Answer. The loudspeaker was turned towards the prisoners' building to avoid them here. So those prisoners could not hear the interrogation.
That surprises me, Mr. Witness. I have visited the site myself, and I think the kitchen and the prison building is about the same distance.
The President, co-prosecutor, you now have the floor.
I object to counsel testifying himself. There's a site identification report that has a map diagram of this prison grounds. It's not appropriate for counsel to be testifying himself about the layout of the prison.
Fine, Mr. Prosecutor. Mr. Witness, isn't it true that the prison building has about the same distance in respect of the interrogation room as the kitchen?
Answer. The kitchen building of the guards was about 50 meters away from the prison building.
And the kitchen?
Answer. It was about 40 meters away.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I would like to turn to another topic. Earlier in your testimony, you have testified that you saw prison cadres, prison guards, smash babies against trees on the compound or outside the compound. Would you be able to remember when this happened? How long were you already in Krang Tachan when this happened?
Answer. That incident, it happened in 1977. At that time, I could move freely. At that time, I could observe how the children were killed.
Would you be able to explain what happened that day when you saw that?
Answer. As for this, there were guards guarding the execution. So after the execution of the mother, the babies would also be killed. Dig the roots, dig the grass. We have to dig out the root out as well.
My question, Mr. Witness, if you would be able to describe in general terms what you did that day before you saw babies being smashed against trees.
Answer. Before the child or the baby was killed, at that time I returned to my place where the cattle were kept. And that place was to the north side of the execution site. There was a big deal tree near the pit.
Mr. Witness, that was not my question. My question was whether you would, in general terms, be able to describe that day that you saw that? You woke up. What did you do in the morning? What did you do in the afternoon? When exactly did you see these babies being smashed?
Answer. There was no execution in the morning. Execution usually took place at 2 or 3 p.m. In the morning, I went to collect vegetables for cooking, and after that I went to tend the cattle. After tending the cattle, I had to return the cattle to its place. The place where the cattle were kept was close to the execution site, and I could see the baby was killed, and then the baby was thrown into the pit.
I'll move up a little bit. Which baby was it? Whose child was it? Do you know the mother?
Answer. I do not know the baby belongs to which mother.
Did you see the mother when the baby was killed?
Answer. Before the execution of the mother, I could see her, and after the killing, I no longer saw her.
Could you give some details about the mother? Do you know her name? Can you describe her? Was she a prisoner?
Answer. I do not know her name, and I do not know her date of birth or place of birth. I do not know her origin. I knew only that she was put in Krang Pajan security office.
But surely you'll be able to describe her. Do you know what she looked like? Do you remember what she looked like? Where she was from, maybe?
Answer. Before the incident, I was not there. During the time the execution took place, I was chased away, and I was tending cow or cattle. After tending cow and I returned, I could see the execution. This is what I knew.
But surely, Mr. Witness, this was a terrible incident. You had yourself siblings, young children at the time. Did you maybe speak about the events afterwards with other prisoners or staff?
Answer. I dare not speak tell this incident to other colleagues. I had to pretend that I am dumb or I could not speak.
So you didn't go up to a guard or somebody else asking what happened? Why did they smash this baby against the tree?
Answer. As I told you already, I did not go to ask information from any other guards. I would be in danger. I had to pretend that I could not speak, I could not hear anything.
Mr. Witness, do you remember which tree it was that they smashed that baby against?
The baby was smashed against teal tree.
And where is that tree?
President, witness, please hold on. You have to wait for the microphone to be activated. Answer. It was to the north of the pits.
What do you mean to the north? Was it on the compound or was it outside the compound?
It was in the first level compound.
Do you remember if your brothers and sisters or your mother saw this?
Answer. My mother could not witness the incident. Whenever execution was carried out, everyone was pushed into the buildings. My mother asked that she could be transferred to a cooperative. And one day, seeing the guard, asked where Yenyo want to go. This is the place where you could stay. So please do not ask to go anywhere later on.
Do you remember which prison guards did this?
Answer. That security guards, all of them made such a statement. And usually guards had their respective duties. Some people were at the pits to kill and some other were on other tasks.
Again, Mr. Witness, I wasn't asking you general comments about what happened. My question was, who was it that smashed that baby?
It was Siang.
Do you remember how he did this?
Answer. I do not know how he did it, and I do not know the methods of killing. If I knew, how could I not tell the court? The killing was like what I described.
I'm a little bit confused now, Mr. Witness. Are you now saying that you didn't see it or you didn't know it? What exactly do you mean?
Answer. I said, I already told you what I saw, and please do not ask me further concerning the killing of the baby. I could see the incident for a brief period of time only on that day.
Very well. Mr. Witness, I will move on, but not without asking a last question on this topic. I put it to you that you never actually saw the killing of a baby, the smashing of a baby against a tree. Is that correct?
President, Council, I told you already, you should not make any conclusion and ask the witness to confirm on your conclusion. You can make your conclusion at the end of evidentiary hearings. And you can make the conclusion based on your written submission for the chamber. You have to comply with the criminal procedural codes of Cambodia and also the procedure of the ECC. The witness, you need not to answer to the question.
I think, Mr. President, it was a perfectly legitimate question. However, in this court, interesting things happen. Mr. Witness, I would like to move on to the next topic, and that is your eyewitness testimony in relation to the mass execution of prisoners. Again, do you remember when exactly or around which time during your presence in Krang Tachan that was?
Answer. I saw the execution during the time I was detained in Krang Tachan security office. There were brutal crimes, killings within the compound of Krang Tachan security office, regardless of their origins.
Please, Mr. Witness, if you would be so kind to listen to my question. My question was, do you remember around which time the mass execution that you spoke about yesterday happened? When that time was?
No. Answer. It happened in 1977 during the time I was detained in Krang Tachan security office. I was in that security from 1976 to 1977.
Was it the dry season? Was it the wet season? Do you remember?
Answer. It was after the harvest season.
Now, Mr. Witness, I would like to take you back to that day. Do you remember what you did that day when you saw these mass executions?
Answer. I did not do anything other than tending cattle. The killing took place at 3 p.m. Large number of people were transported to the security office because there were no rooms for those prisoners. They were taken to be killed.
One step at a time, Mr. Witness. At 3 o'clock you said you witnessed the mass execution. How do you remember it was 3 o'clock?
Answer. From 3 p.m., prisoners were transported out from the first level, from within the first level fence to the execution place. 2 or 3 or 4 prisoners were taken out once at a time. until they collected all 100 prisoners to that pit. And after that, when night fell, I slept.
So is it now your testimony that you saw the execution of 100 prisoners?
Answer. On that day, more than 100 prisoners were killed, but I do not know the exact number.
Fine, Mr. Witness, but let me take you back to 3 o'clock that day. How do you remember it was 3 o'clock?
Answer. I have already told you. So why you keep insisting on the answer? I told you what I saw. President, Mr. Witness, you have to listen carefully to the question. And if you do not know the answer, you can say, I don't know. I have already told you, if you are trying to overstate, there will be consequences. You have no right to not respond to the question. And you can say, I do not know the answer. This can be your answer, and it is clear for everyone. Please continue your questioning, Counsel.
So it's 3 o'clock that day. Let's assume that for a second. Had you been tending the cows before you came back to the compound?
Answer. I returned to my place after 3, 4, or 5 p.m.
Again, Mr. Witness, that was not my question. My question is about that day that you say you saw 100 prisoners being executed. Did you come back at 3 o'clock from tending the cows?
Answer. At 3 o'clock, I came to collect the ropes so that I could catch the cattle back.
Fine. Can you explain to the court where exactly you were when you saw the execution of 100 prisoners?
Answer. I do not answer to this question because I was not there to observe the incidents.
Is it now your testimony that you didn't actually see the execution of 100 prisoners?
Answer. I saw that incident after prisoners were all killed. I was the one who buried the bodies.
So you didn't actually see the killing, but it was you who dug graves to put those 100 bodies into? Is that now what you're saying?
Answer. I did not stay there to count the prisoner to be killed. When I saw the killing, I walked away.
So now you saw the killing, is that correct?
The answer, yes, I saw it just for a brief moment.
But Mr. Witness, the execution of 100 people, that surely takes, I don't know, half hour, hour? You saw it, you tell me.
Answer. I do not have a clock or watch to time. It was in the afternoon. The killings the killings took place in the afternoon, and at 8 p.m. I was waken up to clean the sword.
Mr. Witness, just so that I understand it correctly, the execution of 100 prisoners must be a terrible event. So I'm asking you details, so in order to be able to understand what happened. Can you be very clear? Did you see the actual killing of those 100 prisoners? And if yes, how did it happen?
President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. You have the floor now, Mr. Co-Prosecutor.
My objection, Mr. President, is simply that he be more clear in his question. Is he asking him whether he saw all 100 prisoners executed, or is he asking him whether he saw some of the prisoners executed? By the question being unclear, that's why we have to have these repetitive questions over and over. So I would ask that he be clear as to whether he's asking what he's asking precisely.
Mr. President, this is disgraceful.
President, I also think your question is rather repetitive, and the witness, you instructed not to respond to the last question, and counsel, please move on.
Mr. President, on the record, this is a disgraceful objection, a disgraceful decision. I'm talking here about the execution of 100 people.
President, I have heard your questions, and they are rather repetitive. I took notes of your questions, and the witness stated that he saw the killing. He already responded to your question. And if you have other questions, please make sure your questions are precise, and you are not allowed to put the repetitive questions to the witness. Otherwise, your time is running out, and the time for case and defense is also running out.
Mr. Witness, did you see the execution of all 100 prisoners?
I saw the killing in a very short time. I did not stand there to watch the entire event of killing.
Fine, Mr. Witness. How many killings did you see?
I did not count at the time.
Was it 1? Was it 5? Was it 10? Was it 20?
saw only one killing, and then I was shocked, so I did not continue watching, and I knew later on 100 of them had been killed.
So it's now your testimony you saw the killing of actually only one person. Is that correct? And who was this person?
I did not know that person.
When this person was killed, where were the other 90 or 100 prisoners?
They were all in the same pit.
My question meant to ask you where the other prisoners were during the execution of the one that you saw.
The person that I saw was one of the 100 persons. I only saw that one killing, then I walked away. The 100 prisoners were sent there all together, and they were there.
And how do you know this? Who told you that?
The guards told me, because some guards were also kind, and they told me that 100 prisoners were killed, and the bodies were in the pit, and I was ordered to bury the bodies.
I don't understand, Mr. Witness. You were burying the bodies, or were they already there in the pit?
The bodies were in the pit.
Is it then your testimony that you didn't dig the holes where the bodies were put into?
No, I did not dig the pit. It was Soy San who dug the pit.
Fine. Mr. Witness, where were you during the killings of the 99 other prisoners? Where did you go to after you saw the killing of one prisoner?
I went away to tend the water buffalo because it was rather late, and as I stated, when the night fall, I would sleep. I would not be allowed to wander anywhere at night.
But I don't understand this, Mr. Witness. You said you saw this at 3 o'clock. You watched only one killing. I presume it would be 3:15 when you went away. So it was 3 hours until darkness would fall. Is that correct?
I didn't talk about the night time. I went to gather the cattle and put them back into the pen, and that was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was the time that I had to return to the prison compound. Then I had my meal, and I was ready to be called to assist in hunting a frog as required.
So when you came back, did you see the dead bodies of these 100 prisoners?
When I was ordered to bury the bodies, I went together with Tachan, and that's when I saw those dead bodies.
But I thought you just said that you were not involved in the burying of the bodies. I don't understand, Mr. Witness.
President, the International Co-Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Again, repetitive questioning, but my objection is that counsel is misstating the prior record. The witness said he wasn't involved in digging the pit. There's digging the pit, and then there's burying, covering the pit. And if he would make that distinction in his question, we wouldn't have to have the same questions asked over and over. So I'd ask him to be more specific and not to misstate the witness's prior testimony, which is that he was not the one who dug the pit.
Mr. President, I'm asking questions. I've been busy for 25, 30 minutes, 20 minutes on a terrible, tragic event of the mass execution of 100 prisoners. I don't think I ask repetitive questions. But it's already 10 minutes past 11 on the record. I have many more questions to this witness. I would like to be able to continue asking questions not only about this alleged mass execution, but also about other executions. Please allow me, Mr. President, to continue my questioning.
President, you will not be allowed additional time unless you can use the remainder of the time from the Kiels and Pons defense. And now the Chamber would like to give the floor to Kiels and Pons defense to put the questions to this witness. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, Your Honors, and everyone in and around the courtroom. And good morning, Mr. Misoka. My name is Kong Sam-on. I am a counsel for my client, Kiel Sampon. I have some questions for you. First, can you tell us how old you are? Because on the 8th January, you said that you were born in 1960, but in your ID card, it reads that you were born in 1962. Can you tell us why there is a difference? Answer. I was a soldier, and I needed to rest to decrease, rather to increase my age so that I could enjoy the retirement benefit. Thank you. Question. So, in fact, you reduced your age in order to get the retirement benefit? Am I correct? Answer. That is true. Question. Can you tell us why you want to have a retirement benefit? President, your question is not relevant to counsel, and it is not of a kind to ascertain the truth. Witness, you are instructed not to respond to that question. Counsel, allow me to move on. The reason I asked about your age, because after 17 April 1975, as you stated, you said that you worked in a children's unit to tend the cattle. And I'd like you to clarify the 3 stages. That is, first, from 1975 up to the day that you were arrested and detained at Krang Tachan in June 1976. And the next stage that I am interested, that is the period of about 3 to 4 weeks that you were initially detained at the Krang Tachan, and the third stage is after you were released. These are the three specific time frame that I'd like to put to you. During the first stage that you tended the cows, how old were you? That is when you were in 1975. Answer: I was 15 years old at the time. Question: on the 8th January, during your testimony, at 5 to 11, and allow me to quote your transcript, you stated that at the time I was allowed to stay home because I was the youngest. When you stated that you were the youngest, whom did you compare to your peer? I mean the people in your own group, or to the adult or other people? Answer: I myself was the youngest because I always had a sickness. That's why it affected my growth, and for that reason I was allowed to come and sleep at my house at night. During the first stage that you started to tend the cow, how many of you were in your team? Answer: there were 6 of us. Questioned: amongst the 6 of you, what was the age range? Answer: we were of a similar age. However, I was the smallest. As my mother said, I did not grow up. Question: you talk about youngest or smallest. Are you referring to the physical height and not the age? Answer: yes, that is correct. Question: I'd like you to answer my questions in relation to the time period that you were in detention. You stated that you were called to go to the detention center when you returned from tending the cows, and while your family members were being brought into the detention center. My question is the following: while en route, were you together traveling with your family members, namely your parents? Answer: we traveled at the same time. However, I was the last to walk, and we were all put into the same vehicle. Question: can you tell us when you initially arrived at the Krang Tachan, and as you stated, people were put in a queue? Can you be a bit more specific on that? Answer: people were put in a row and their ankles were shackled In fact, there were 2 rows in the building, one to the south and one to the north in that 15-meter long building. Question. They were put in a row from one end to the other end, or was there a gap where people were not put in that row? Answer. There were some gaps, and later on they will be filled with new prisoners. Question. Here I want to talk about the smaller gaps where prisoners could not be filled in. For example, whether 3 or 4 prisoners were put into a row, and then there was a small gap, and another set of prisoners will be put into a row. Can you be a bit more specific on that? Answer, no, there was no gap or partition. It was one blank white bed where all prisoners were put into a row. Question. Please listen to my question carefully. Here I do not talk about a partition or a room partition. I talk about the small gaps within the building where prisoners were put. Let me say a prisoner will be put into a row from one corner of the building to the other corner, or were prisoners put into smaller groups within the row? Answer, they were put into a row. Some would lie down, some would sit up, but their ankles were shackled. Thank you. And Mr. President, I would like to show on the screen document D25/30 at ERN in Khmer. 00163505 and in French 00178424 and in English 00223488. President, yes, you may proceed. And court officer, could you assist with the projection of that document on the screen? Mr. Witness, I will read an extract from this document, which is your mother's written record of interview before the OCIJ. Question. When you were arrested and brought to Kantachan, what did you see in that prison? An answer. I was put into a long building, and there were walkway, and a group of 5 prisoners would be put into a row, and we were together with other prisoners in a big rooms, and they would use a metal bar to shackle the prisoners' ankles. Mr. Witness, what can you say to that? President, Witness, please wait, and the International Court Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Mr. President, my objection, I'd ask him to have a question. What do you have to say about that is not a specific question. If he has a specific question about his mother's testimony, fine. It seems to be just asking for a commentary, and I think that's an inappropriate question.
Counsel, Mr. President, I'd like here to make a difference between his testimony and another witness, as stated in this document D25/30. President, the objection by the International Co-Prosecutor to the last question by the Defense Counsel for Khieu Samphan is overruled. The Chamber would like to hear the response from the witness. And maybe the witness cannot recall the question, and the Counsel, please repeat your question. Counsel, thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Witness, I'd like to repeat the last question. In the testimony of your mother, she stated that in that prison building, prisoners were put in a group of 5 and not in a long row as you stated. Can you tell the court why there is a difference in your testimony and your mother's testimony? Answer. When you talk about a group of people, here talk about the metal divider, because for the shackle, the metal divider will be used for 5 to shackle 5 prisoners, and then another 5 prisoners will be shackled within another segment of that metal bar. Question. Do you mean you change your position from your previous statement that the prisoners were put in a row from one side of the building to another, to the one that you said a group of 5 prisoners will be put in a row, will be put in a segment? President, witness, please wait till the microphone is operational. Answer. No, I do not change my position, but I saw the prisoners were put in a row, but in between a group of 5 prisoners would be shackled, and even if there was a group of 5 prisoners, but all these prisoners would be put in a long row. And only in between these group of 5 prisoners, there would be a metal ring to divide them, although they were still within the same row. Question. You just stated about a group of 5 prisoners. What was the distance between this set of 5 prisoners to another set of 5 prisoners? Answer. The distance will be less than 1.5 meters. Question. What about the distance between one prisoner to another prisoner? How wide was it? Answer. There was no gap between one prisoner to another, because 5 prisoners would be bundled together into this one set in between the metal ring. Question. Please listen to my question carefully. You said that for this bundle of 5 prisoners, was there any gap between one prisoner to the next? Or how wide was this? Was the distance for these 5 prisoners when they were put into shackled? Answer. They were not measured because all the 5 prisoners had to be crammed against one another. And if there were less than 5, then they would use another prisoner to put into a group or to bundle them into a group of 5. Question. Does it mean that the 5 prisoners had to be bundled together in a group of 5, and there was no gap in between these 5 prisoners? However, then the distance between, or the gap between this set of 5 prisoners to another set of 5 prisoners was about 1.5 meters. Am I correct? answer. My response earlier was that the distance was 1.5 and not 2.5 meters. And that is roughly my estimation, as I did not take an actual measure of the distance. Question. Of course, I asked you about the distance between the one set of 5 prisoners to another set of 5 prisoners. As you stated that the distance was more than 2 meters. And you stated that the 5 prisoners were bundled together and there was no room for them to move within this set. And then another set will be bundled, and the distance between these 2 sets would be 2 meters or 1.5 meters. Am I correct this time? President, witness, you do not need to respond to this question, and it is also a leading question. And counsel, please move on.
Counsel, thank you. I would like you to clarify about the time. About the arrest of your father. You mentioned that the arrest of your father was during the day that there was a meeting to depose the village chief. Could you clarify about the time of the event, the time of the meeting, and how long was it after the meeting that your father was arrested? Answer. The time that he was arrested, it was the day after the meeting. And as for my brother-in-law, he was arrested on the meeting day. Counsel, thank you. Who made the arrest? Who initiated the arrest? Answer. I was told that the superiors gave a letter to contemptible Buen because Buen was cheated to encourage people to put some prints to depose the village chief. Counsel. Thank you. You said that the superior or the commune chief who was the one who gave the letter. Is that correct? Answer, yes. Counsel, who was involved in the arrest or who was involved in implementing or carrying out the order by the commune chief? Answer, the one who arrested are all deceased. Counsel, do you know their names? President, Mr. Witness, please wait until the microphone is operational. Answer, I know the names. Counsel, could you tell those names? Answer, you want me to elaborate the arrest of my father? Counsel, I would like you to mention the names who came to arrest your father. Ji was the chief of militiamen who came to arrest my father, and Rum, there was one man named Rum. President, Council, Gentlemen, you may now resume your questioning. Council, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to resume my questioning. From 1979 to the interview by OCIJ, have you ever mentioned about Krang Tajan Security Office to any other individuals? Answer. Yes, I mentioned about Grand Security Office to Thieret, to Kalyan, Madame Kalyan, members of document centers of Cambodia, documentation center of Cambodia rather. Counsel, how did they know you were detained in Grand Security Office? Answer. They did the research in the Tramkot district because I once mentioned about my background. Question concerning the information you provided to other people, other individuals, other than those from DC Cam or investigators. Have you ever given statement to other individuals? Answer. When I was a soldier in Tramkot district, whenever I reach a place, I mention about Tramkot district. Everyone know me within the Tramkot districts. I mentioned that I was detained in Clandestine Security Office for a period of about 3 years, and the village chief also knew about my story. Question. So you have constantly mentioned about your story, and have you ever mentioned about the Clandestine Security Office, the specific details? Answer. I have never given details of that office. Question. How about your mother? Have you ever received any information from your mother in relation to the security office? Answer. No. I have never talked to my mother, or I have never received any information concerning the security office. Question. And you have never received any information concerning the security office from your relatives and your siblings, have you? Answer. Actually, they instead received the information about this office from me, and they said your family were suffering from the events. Counsel, Mr. President, I would like to my colleague to continue questioning. President, you may now proceed. International Council.
Thank you very much, President. Good morning, Mr. Miyaseka. My name is Anta Gise. I am a lawyer. I'm the international lawyer representing Mr. Kyo Sompong. We do not have a lot of time remaining, therefore I would ask that you be precise and succinct in your answers, as I will be the same in my questions. I wish to focus first and foremost on the topic of your life before 1975, before your entry into the cooperative. You talked about the chief of the cooperative, Mr. Onnop. Do you recall at what time Mr. Onnop became the chief of the cooperative?
He became commune chief from 1970 to 1975 or 1976, and after we departed, I do not know where he is now, but I know that he is in Battambang province.
The date suffices for me. That was the precise question I wanted to ask. Do you know? I know that you were quite young at the time, but do you recall if Onnop, the head of the commune, had any particular problem with your father or your brother-in-law prior to the meeting that you referred to during your testimony?
Answer. What I knew is that my father and my father-in-law was asked to convene a rally or meeting, and in the past I believe they had some arguments.
Thank you very much for that piece of information. Over the course of your testimony, you also mentioned that not long after the meeting at the commune with your father and brother-in-law, the two were convened by Angkor. You yourself referred to Angkor. Can you please tell us, in that particular context, who were you talking about? Who were the people in charge at the commune? Who were the people who convened your father and your brother-in-law?
Answer. I know only Buen, who was the head of the commune, and as for other, I do not know. Buen was a female.
À l'audience du
At the hearing of the 8th of January 2015, you stated, and this was addressed by my learned friend for the team of Nunjie, you said, I did not participate in the building of the canals. I was put in charge of overseeing the cattle because I was a young boy. And my colleague then asked you to confirm a statement made before the co-investigating judges, D25/3, and the French ERNs are as follows: 00178111, English ERN 00223494, and in Khmer 00163511. In this witness record of testimony, you said that you had to collect dung and that you were in the children's unit. My question is as follows. Yes or no, did you partake in the building of the canals? Because you have made two separate and distinct statements. Could you please make that clarification before this chamber?
Answer. After I finished collecting cattle manure, I was also involved in making canals for just a brief period of time. I was told that after you collected cattle manure, you needed to go to make canal as well.
Pourtant,
And yet, at the hearing of the 8th of January, around 11:03 a.m., you said the following: I did not partake in the construction of canals. I was in charge of overseeing the cattle because I was a young boy. Therefore, I was not sent to build the canals. End of quote. Am I to understand today that you are saying something different?
Answer. I do not change my statement. I was also involved in digging the canal or making the canals, but not for months. It was small canals to be dug by the children, and I carried some earth, and during lunch break I would be back to have meals. So once again, I was not involved in digging or making canals for months or for a longer period of time.
Very well. I will just have to settle with that answer. I wish now to focus on the time at Security Center Tang Kachan. You said that at the detention center you continue to oversee the cattle. My first question is this. Was this a task that you undertook every day?
Answer. As for tending cattle, I did this work every day. Only when I was put in a preparatory adult unit, and then I quit such duty.
In fact, you testified before this chamber that during the interrogations you observed and during the executions that you had observed, or at least partially, can you please say that it was during the time that you were in charge of tending the cattle?
Actually, I was tending cattle in the outside compound of the prisons, and during the incident, I could sneak and observe the incident secretly. If I allowed anyone to see that I was observing the incident, I would be in danger.
You described your day-to-day living at the detention center by saying that after 1976 you were relatively free in how you could move about during the day. Is it fair and accurate to say that you did not enjoy a status that was on par or similar to that of other prisoners?
Answer, that is correct.
Did the status also allow you to have different types of meals? You stated that you ate twice a day. And did you eat the same meals as other prisoners, or did you consume something different?
Answer. Actually, for prisoners had only 2 meals. And as for me, I had 2 meals. However, I received a bigger ladle compared to those of prisoners.
Why did you receive a larger ration of food?
Answer. Because they said I would get more energy so that I could tend cattle.
Was that not stemming from the fact that your mother was working in the kitchen?
Answer. It did not concern to the case of my mother that she was working in the kitchen. If I committed infraction, it would cause danger to my mother. So it did not relate to the case that my mother was working in the kitchen.
Mr. Witness, I wish to go over a few statements made by your mother. She was interviewed by the co-investigating judges. I'm referring to D35/30. I am interested more so in the audio recording of the statements, and I will refer you to that recording, which bear the following numbers. ERN in French 01 056 616 217. Khmer ERN 0105 6208 209, and in English 0105 661 0215. Now, the first question that your mother was asked: during your detention, were you subject to any other mistreatment? Your mother's response is as following: myself. Question: yes. Response from your mother: no, I was not mistreated, given the fact that I could carry out all of the tasks as I was given, which was to feed 200 or 250 or more prisoners at one time, which I always succeeded in doing. Question: and your children? Answer: my children worked outside and they were in charge of tending water buffalo and cattle. Question: really? Response: yes. Question: were they not mistreated? Response: no, they were not mistreated, not at all. End of quote. I'd also like to quote another excerpt from the written record of interview with your mother, where she specifically refers to meals. Now, in the same audio recording, at minute 30 approximately, she is asked a question on the food portions given to the prisoners. This is what she says. This is what she recounts as having been told by the head of the commune. The head of the commune said to me this, you don't have to give them proper sustenance. Just give them a sufficient amount. That's all. That's what the head of the commune said. Interrogator: is that right, really? Answer: yes, that's what I was told. And she continues on by specifying: I was told you don't have to give them proper nourishment or sustenance, just give them enough, and as for the rest, you can keep the remaining portion for your children. Now, Mr. Witness, after having heard these statements made by your mother, does this evoke any other memories or recollections, and does this explain why you were given supplementary portions of food? Yes or no?
President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. Co-prosecutor, you may now proceed. Co-prosecutor.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was a translation issue, but the statement said that it was the prison chief who gave this instruction, not the commune chief. I don't know whether it was just translated wrong, but in English, the statement she read said commune chief, and it's actually the prison chief. So the record should be clear on that.
En français.
In French, I was referring to the head, and in the excerpt, this is not specified, but I think we can all agree that I am referring to the head of the prison. Now, can the witness please answer my question, yes or no? The fact that... Is there an issue? Or may I continue? Mr. Witness, yes or no? Does this evoke any memories? Does this ring a bell? The fact that your mother worked at the kitchen at the security center meant that you were entitled to extra rations of food, and that you also enjoyed special status within the detention center.
Answer. Concerning food ration, food rations for my family members, we had enough to eat. However, it was not enough. We just got extra food ration. We received food ration more than the other. The gruel was very watery. There was a few potatoes pieces about the size of my thumb, and it was very plain.
Je vous arrête parce que
Mr. Witness, I beg your pardon. I'll have to interrupt you because we do not dispose of a lot of time. As I said, I'm asking you very specific questions. I would ask that you not elaborate, otherwise I will not be able to conclude within the time allotted to me. Now, at this detention center, you testified that there were a certain number of people, whether they be security guards or other superiors, who Mr. President, could I please have your leave to post D25 ERN in French 001517, Khmer 00163517, and in English 00223500. This is the segment of the witness's statement in which he lists the various names of staff members at the security center. Mr. President, do I have your leave to present this document on the screen?
President, you may now proceed.
Mr. Witness, a portion of your statement is on the screen, and I'd like to go over the names that you named. You identified, you talk about An, Pen, then Duik, then Cheng, next Mun, then Uk, then another Duik, and then Sim, and then Seng, and then Sun or Sun. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Then Chun, and then lastly Chuik. Is this an accurate reflection of your recollection and recounting to the interrogators when you were interviewed by them?
You did not mention some other names. That is Jiet, Siang rather, Siang the executioner.
d'accord.
Very well. I think it appears a bit lower on the page, but thank you very much for that correction. My question is very straightforward. Now, in response to the question asked to you, you said that you had witnessed, or at least partially, to the execution of some 100 prisoners in 1977. I would like to know, among the staff members that you listed in your statement, how many people were also present? For example, on the day of the said execution, of the names identified, were any of them present at the execution? If so, who was present?
Answer: those who were present were all of them, excluding only Big Twig and one person working in the kitchen.
D'accord. Donc,
Very well. So Pen and Soon were in attendance. Is that correct?
Answer: yes, that is correct.
Monsieur,
Mr. President, I see that the hour is 12. I have not concluded my line of questioning. I tried to be expeditious. However, in light of the technical problems we faced, would the Chamber be so willing as to allot me additional time so that I may finish my cross-examination?
President, your request is granted.
je vous remercie.
Thank you. Still bearing in mind the staff of the Security Center, you mentioned the presence of loudspeakers at the Security Center. You stated that they were inside the Security Center. Can you tell us exactly where they were? Were they in the building? And if yes, which building? Since you said there were 3 different buildings, can you specify exactly where those loudspeakers were located?
Answer: loudspeaker would be turned towards the people who were in the buildings, and one loudspeaker was placed in front of one of the buildings.
Donc, si je comprends bien,
If I understand you correctly, the loudspeaker is opposite the building. Does it mean outside of the building?
Answer: yes, loudspeaker were placed outside of the building, next to the wall.
d'accord.
Very well. Thank you for this clarification. Bearing in mind the staff you referred to, who was in charge of activating the loudspeakers at the time of the interrogations and the execution, since they had to be reactivated, as you stated? Who were the officials in charge of activating the loudspeakers?
Whoever could operate it or activate it, the loudspeakers.
Vous voulez dire qu'il n'y avait personne
Do you mean that there was no particular person assigned to do that task?
Answer: you are right. No specific person was in charge of activating the loudspeakers. Anyone could activate the loudspeakers.
à l'audience.
At the hearing of the 21st of January 2015, at about 11 hours 23 seconds, you talked of the number of people who were executed, and you stated that it could have been between 60, 70, or even 100, and that prisoners arrived every day and that the prisoners arrived at night. My question to you is as follows. You also stated, to be complete, on the 21st of January, at about 10 hours 42 seconds, you stated that the building in question could have housed more than 100 prisoners at a time. I would like you to tell the chamber what, on average, in your opinion, could be the number of people who arrived a month. How many prisoners arrived a month on average? Because the figure you gave does not allow me to properly understand the number of prisoners involved. Can you give us an estimate of the number of prisoners who arrived per month at a time?
Answer. I do not remember how many prisoners arrived monthly. I slept outside, so I could see that there were perhaps 10 or 30 prisoners were brought at one night, and the day after that there would be prisoners be brought in for killing.
D'accord. Donc, selon vous,
Very well. So in your opinion, it was between 10 and 20 prisoners arriving every night. Is that correct?
Answer. Yes, you are correct.
donc,
So 10 to 20 prisoners arriving every night times 30 days in a month, we are talking of 300 or more prisoners arriving. Is that indeed the case according to your estimates?
Answer. I said and I believe it were more than 300 prisoners monthly.
alors, monsieur,
So, Mr. Witness, I would like to read out to you an extract from a statement by someone who worked at the detention center and who gave figures that do not quite tally with what you have said. I'm saying so that it may jog your memory. It's TCW 845. I'm giving only the pseudonym, and it is a statement D40/23. And this is what that person who worked at the detention center stated. The question put to that person, and the ERN in French is 004909110. The ERN in Khmer is 001653555. And the ERN in English is 00223211. And this is a question that was put to that witness by the investigator regarding prisoners who were brought to that center, that is Kantrachan. How many were there, and how were they brought to that center? By what means of transportation? And the answer was 2 or 3 prisoners were brought. There were about 20 prisoners a month who were brought on foot. End of quote. Mr. Witness, that person who worked at the security center talked of 20 to 25 prisoners a month, whereas you've talked of more than 300 prisoners a month. Can you explain the discrepancy between these two statements?
President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. Mr. Co-Prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd ask if the witness is being asked to comment on this, that counsel provide a copy of the witness statement to him so he can see who this person is. He doesn't know pseudonyms. If he's being asked to comment on the statement of another witness, while we should maintain the confidentiality, he is entitled to know who it was that made the statement. So I believe that was the practice followed in the prior trial. It should be followed here so that this witness understands who this statement came from. He should also, of course, be instructed not to refer to them by name if this is a potential trial witness.
je n'ai pas de problème à ce que...
I have no problem having the witness know exactly who we are referring to. I would like to do so if the chamber would give me more time to present such information to the witness.
Avec l'aide.
May I request the court officer to show the witness a copy of the witness's statement I have here before me.
President, court officer, you are instructed to bring the statement to the witness.
Je vais donner le document.
I will give the document, but in order for us to gain time, let me try to complete my questions. Talking of another witness who gave different figures. Here is the document that is being brought to you.
Alors, en faisant, Monsieur le témoin.
Mr. Witness, please do not mention the name of that witness who has not yet appeared, because that witness is protected by a pseudonym. May I request you to look at the name on the first page and confirm to the chamber that you do know that person as someone who worked at the security center.
Est-ce que vous avez vu le nom, Monsieur le témoin?
Have you seen the name of that person, witness?
Answer, I know this name.
Et est-ce que cette...
And was that person working at the security center?
Answer, yes, he works there.
Est-ce que dans ces conditions...
And under these circumstances, can you now answer my question? How do you explain the discrepancies between what he said, that is 20 to 25 prisoners a month, according to that witness, and your own figure, more than 300 persons a month?
Answer, I believe that this person worked at the place, so he could not mention such number as I said.
Et pourquoi?
And why was that?
Answer, because he was afraid that he was allegedly a direct perpetrator.
Et cet auteur allégué faisait-il partie?
And was that person one of the executioners?
Answer, he was a messenger.
Donc, si je comprends bien,
So if I understand you correctly, what you are saying is that he did not take part in any of the interrogations or executions.
Answer, no, he did not involve.
et vous
And you also stated that you were asleep when the prisoners arrived, and so you were not in a position to know the exact number of persons arriving. So my questions to you is as follows. Bear in mind that you, in principle, you stated that he was not involved in the interrogations or the killings. Why would he have lied in giving the figure of the persons who arrived at the prison?
Answer, he may feel shameful because he worked there and perhaps he concealed some information. He was afraid to be, to speak openly.
D'accord, c'est votre position.
Very well. That is your position, and that is the only explanation you can give regarding the figures that you gave. Is that the case?
President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. Co-prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I didn't object the first few times. The witness is being asked to speculate about another witness. He's responded to this question as best we could. I don't not see any purpose by asking another question, repetitive question, again asking to speculate about the motives of this witness.
Monsieur le Président, je pense
Mr. President, I do not think my question was repetitive. I am putting an apparent contradiction to the witness and asking him whether it was only with regard to that witness that he is allowed to comment before the next witness appears before the chamber. So I'm giving this witness an opportunity to make comments on what he has said. I note that we have gone beyond lunchtime, and I thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this additional time.
President, thank you, Counsel. The Chamber wishes to thank you, Mr. Misoka, who spent time giving testimonies before the Chamber for these several days. Your testimony now comes to an end, and you are no longer needed in this courtroom. You can go to any preferred destination you want. Court officer, you are instructed to facilitate with vessels to send the witness to his preferred destination. It is now time for lunch break. The hearing is now adjourned until 1:30. After the resumption of the hearing, we will hear the testimony of 2 TCCP 296 security personnel. You are instructed to bring Mr. Kisampon to the detention facility and brought him back before 1:30 p.m. The hearing is adjourned.